All right, I'm gonna do something a little different today. You've probably seen a bunch of the videos that are the worst neighborhoods in Ottawa, videos that are floating around YouTube. And I think some of them just sort of get the picture of Ottawa a little bit off. They often lead with like a fear-based, or they cherry pick scary streets, and then they leave you thinking, at least at the beginning, that the good portion of Ottawa are problematic. And I don't agree with that, and I don't think it is. Hey, my name is Jimmy. I am a realtor here in Ottawa. There is a link in the description below to book a call with me, whether you're thinking of buying, selling, or you just want to chat about what is going on in today's market. Now, Ottawa is one of the safest big cities in Canada, but there are 5 pockets where I actually do tell clients to slow down before they put in their offer. And the reasons aren't always what you'd think. So I pulled the 2025 Ottawa police data ward by ward to back up where I'm gonna go with this. And some of it's confirmed with what I already believe, with what I'm seeing when I go out with homes and buyers. Some of it still surprising me a little bit. So I wanna get into that today. Now, quick context before we jump right into this. The Ottawa police publish a citywide crime rate of around 5,000 per 100,000 residents. But that number on average is a little misleading because 2 downtown wards pull the whole average right up. So the reality is that most of Ottawa lives in a ward with a crime rate that's well under 3,000 instead of the average of what it says is 5,000. So areas like in the suburbs of Barrhaven, Orleans, Riverside South, those are mostly between 1,500 and 3,000. Now, anything above 4,000 reported crime instances of 100K, I want to pay attention to that. And anything above 6,000, well, that is a real outlier for the numbers. The other number that matters is the crime severity index. That measures how serious the crimes are, not just how many crimes there were. That one matters even more than the raw count, especially when you're comparing 2 areas with similar volume. So 2 numbers, that's all you need. You need the amount of crime, the volume, and the severity of that crime. Now here's the thing I want to keep in mind the whole way through this process. I'd live in 90% of the city without second thought, not even a hesitation. I'm not here to scare you off on neighborhoods in Ottawa. I'm here to give you nuanced, that's backed up by data. Now, a little bit of a disclaimer here. Before I get into this countdown, if you live in one of these neighborhoods and areas that I'm going to mention, you're probably going to be getting potentially defensive here. And that's fair. I would be doing the exact same if I was hearing where I live is on this list. But I want you to consider 3 things before we get into today. So 1, I live and work in this city. I'm not trashing anyone's home. Every area on this list has great people, great families, and great houses on great streets. That's just the reality of our neighborhoods, which is a lovely problem to have. What you are going to hear, though, is the data and 12 years of my client conversations and experience. It's not just my personal opinion of who you are and your choices of where you lived. So my job is to give buyers honest information and not pretend that every neighborhood is identical, because we know that isn't, and you want real data, not just a hunch. So the numbers that I'm using are the 2025 Ottawa police data. Anyone can pull them. You can get them on their website and take a look to corroborate exactly what I'm saying. So with that out of the way, let's sort of get to this list and see how we fare. So number 5 is the one most people honestly aren't going to see coming, and that's Centrepoint and Craig Henry area. Now that pocket is in the Old Nepean area, and quick note here, because I know this is the one that's going to make some Centrepoint and Craig Henry people mad. I have people who live there who I know. I'm not saying it's a bad neighborhood today, not even at all. It's completely fine, and I'd recommend it to a client tomorrow if need be. What I'm saying, and why it's on this list, is that the trend matters if you're buying in this neighborhood for the long haul today. So just stay with me as I explain this. I honestly almost didn't want to put this on the list because if you look at the absolute crime numbers, the area honestly is completely fine. It is perfectly safe based on the crime data that the Ottawa police put out. It's an established area. It's an old suburban Ottawa neighborhood in Nepean. I'd live there, and quite frankly, I actually live in the neighborhood right beside it. And I've lived there for 10 plus years and raised my family there. So I'd recommend it to a client without hesitation. But I need to be honest about what I'm seeing on the ground. And what I notice is on my radar is not because of where it is today, but a little bit of where it could be heading. The broader Knoxdale-Merivale ward, which includes the Centrepoint and Craig Henry area, it does show that it's trending up in crimes across the board. So here's some context. Crime rate is up 9% year over year. Crime severity index is up 11%. Theft under $5,000 is up 20%. Mischief up 20%. And the absolute number, which is around 4,000 reports per 100,000 people, it's still well below the city's outlier. So overall, I reiterate, Centrepoint today is not a concern, and I encourage clients to buy here if they found a property they liked. But when I'm advising clients, I want them to know which way the trend is pointing, not just where the number is for today. So this isn't a don't buy here pick. It is go in with your eyes wide open. If you live there and you're not planning to sell soon, this changes nothing really for you. It's only a factor if you're thinking of buying here. Okay, number 4 is Carlington, and specifically a few select streets. Ones like Morissette, Mayview, Edgecliff, and then on the other area of the Borden Farm, Nepean area, there's a pocket around the Meadowlands and Fisher. I have friends who live on Crerar. They love it there. They've been there for a long time. I'd move to this neighborhood in a heartbeat if I needed to. Decent prices. You're close to everything downtown, but there are a few streets, and I mean really like a very few specific streets, where I would tell you to drive on a Friday night before you write an offer. Some of those streets, are at least in pockets of those areas, are over on Silver, Shillington, Hollington stretches. They just feel a little rougher than the rest of the area combined. And then over on the Borden Farm pocket near Meadowlands and Fisher, there is a concentration of low-income housing there that affects how the surrounding streets feel. So this is the same ward as Centrepoint, the Merivale and Fisher area. It's called the Knoxdale-Merivale ward. So when you're looking up the same trend numbers, your crime rate is up 9%. Your crime severity index, your CSI, is up 11%. But the difference with Carlington is the street-by-street variance is much more dramatic in that smaller pocket. You can walk one block and feel great with the area, and then walk the next block and something just feels off. So for buyers, we want to walk the specific block, not just once, but twice. Once during the day and then once at night, because that's the whole strategy. You do that, it'll appease any concern you have, or it'll show a concern that maybe you didn't know prior to putting an offer in. Okay, number 3 on this list is the West End pocket of Bell's Corners, Lincoln Heights, and the edges of the Britannia Bayshore area. So this one is a little interesting. So Bell's Corners, it does have a mobile park home area in that spot and a few stretches of older rental housing that just feel a little off when you start walking around them. Lincoln Heights area and the Britannia Edge, Bayshore area, it's relatively the same kind of story. It's not that these areas are dangerous. I've had clients who bought in these areas in the last year or two and love it. It's just that the housing stock is a little bit older and you've got a lot of mixture of styles. So you have older high-rise rentals that were built in the 70s, some of them in the 80s, mixed in with like your single-family homes. And the perception of the area has not necessarily kept up with the reality of the ward. So the ward data is the Bay Ward, which covers a lot of this area, sits at a crime rate around 5,000 per 100,000 people. Now that is above the 4,000 watch line that I've been using in this video. College Ward, which offers the Britannia edge, is at around 4,300. So both are slightly elevated, but honestly, neither are catastrophic at all. But here's the takeaway, and this matters more than the crime number. It's your resale. So when you go to sell a property in a neighborhood with mixed perception, you're fighting the reputation as much as the actual condition of your home. So if you're buying here, buy because you love the house, but don't expect quick and fast appreciation because you are battling the perception of what people are willing to move into there, and that is much harder to gain appreciation as fast as the regular neighborhood, as the regular city of Ottawa. So keep that in mind before you sign on the dotted line. Okay, number 2 is South Keys, Greenboro, Heron Gate stretch. Now, this is the one I tell clients about most often. The boundaries are basically your Bank Street, Albion, Heron, and Walkley area, that whole pocket. And the area runs all the way east to the Hawthorne area just before the 416. So my honest take with this area is it's actually a great spot to live, which I've basically been saying for all of these areas, if you find the right house. There is transit, there's amenities. The bones of this structure of the neighborhood are good, but the crime concentration along Bank and Johnson, especially between Bank and Albion, is higher than normal. So the Gloucester Southgate ward, which covers the area, it sits at around 5,100 crime units per 100K of people. And that's above my watch line of 4,000. The crime severity index is up 9% year over year, and that is a meaningful jump in this pocket. So when you get into east of Greenboro, more into the Laurie Greenberg side of the area, it does get noticeably nicer. So if you're shopping in this area, focus on the east end parts, not so much the west end, South Keys, closer to Bank area, because the areas like on Bank Street itself between Heron and Walkley, I want you to drive by it and do that same test. Do 2 drive-bys, one on a Friday or a Saturday night and one during the day, because it's going to give you a reality check of your gut compared to what maybe the data has been telling us. Okay, before I get to number 1, I want to talk about the downtown of Ottawa, because if you only looked at the data, downtown specifically, downtown, specifically the Somerset ward, is the core of the neighborhood. This would be a number that is on the list, and it wins out by a mile. So the crime rate there is over 15,000 crimes per 100,000, more than 3 times the city average. And the CSI index is 167. So on paper, it honestly looks terrifying. But here's why I don't even have downtown on my list. My parents live downtown in the Byron Market in a condo. They walk the entire neighborhood at night and they feel completely safe, and they're in their 70s. So I think downtown is actually a pretty darn safe for a buyer who's looking to move into there or a homeowner who's already there. Here's what the data is actually picking up. It's failure to comply with court orders, 1,600 incidents. Failure to appear is 800 incidents. Breach of probation is 400. Those aren't violent, they're chronic justice system churn. It doesn't necessarily mean that's a dangerous area to walk by. It doesn't relate to, let's say, the safety of your home or even your kids. So I really do feel that downtown gets a bad rap here because there are 2 homeless shelters as well on Murray Street. There's the Ottawa Mission on Waller, and then there's the Salvation Army Booth Center on Cumberland. And so the concentration of services, I find, creates a concentration of people who are in crisis. That shows up in the police statistics, but it doesn't translate to your average condo or homeowner being in specific danger. So if you are shopping downtown, yes, there are blocks I'd avoid walking late at night, and there are blocks I'd avoid buying in. But same as any big city, downtown is going to have a misleading crime statistics, and Ottawa's no different. It is the place where the statistics are going to look the worst, but you need to look into the distinction of what that actually means. Okay, the number one neighborhood on this list is one that a lot of people probably expected, Vanier, but specifically Vanier North. And again, I want to be careful because I know a lot of people who live in Vanier and they love it. The southern parts of Vanier, the Overbrook, adjacent areas, those have great pockets. They're a real community, there's character, people love it there, they stay there, they build there, they invest in their neighborhood. But Vanier North, sort of the area that's in between the Montreal Road area, that's where I look at the data and my gut say of the very similar thing here. So the Rideau Vanier ward has a crime rate of 15,000 per 100,000 people. So that's basically the same rate as downtown ward. But there is a difference, and this is where it diverges from the downtown story. The crime severity index is 178. That's the highest in the city. And the assault count last in 2025 was 961. That's just under 1,000 assaults for the neighborhood. So comparatively to downtown, all of those failure to comply numbers had 480 assaults, whereas Vanier was double. So that is a pretty big difference on the type of reports and crime stats that is using. So downtown numbers are driven honestly by chronic homelessness, and you could say the justice system process, whereas Vanier numbers, unfortunately, are a little bit more driven by actual violent crime against people, which is sad to say. There are streets in Vanier where you turn into and you do not want to walk down them at night. That is unfortunately the honest truth, and I tell clients each block can be very different from night to daytime. So if you're shopping in Vanier, and there are real good reasons to go there, the prices are lower, you're close to downtown, the houses have character, focus on the areas that are south of Beechwood, closest to the New Edinburgh, Linden Lee area, or lean toward areas that are close to Overbrook or on the other side of the Vanier Parkway. Walk every single street that you are considering before you write an offer, because you will be glad you did to get a sense of exactly the type of neighborhood that you're walking into. Now here's a part where some of the other videos about this topic don't necessarily explain, and maybe they have a scary thumbnail, although maybe my thumbnail is scary too. While these 5 pockets are concerning to a degree, most of Ottawa is genuinely getting better, and quite frankly is an amazing place to live no matter what. So including some of these areas that they get some of the worst reputation online, Beacon Hill and Searville, that whole East End stretch, your crime is showing, based on the stats, is down 4% year over year. Your crime severity index is down 6% per year. Your violent crime is down 8.5% per year. So people talk about that area like it is in trouble, but the data is saying it is healing and getting better. Even Somerset, which is the area in the downtown core that I talked about, your assaults are down. Most of the headline numbers is more justice system churn, not necessarily violence against the residents who live there or violence against people who are walking around and trying to enjoy the downtown of Ottawa. Let's say take out in Orleans, East Cumberland, your crime rate is down 8%. Your crime severity index is down 21%. That's one of the biggest improvements in the entire city. So there are a few pockets that are getting harder, but most of the city, including a lot of the areas with bad reputations, they're getting safer, and the data is right there for anyone willing to actually read it and to go over. And when you are looking to buy something, rely on your realtor's advice and back it up with that information. So my honest take is, after going through every single ward in the city, Ottawa is one of the safest cities you can live in Canada. There are a handful of pockets where I tell my clients to think twice about before they buy. But the reality is you need to understand where these reputations are coming from and if they're real or more fear-based. Which, don't get me wrong, even the ones that are fear-based, they have an impact on the real estate market. So it's important for you to know what that perception is before you buy. So if you're buying in Ottawa, the strategy is no matter where you are shopping, walk the street, drive by it at night, and ask your realtor for the honest question. Don't buy a neighborhood, buy a specific block, because those two are not the same thing. If this helped you think about Ottawa a little bit differently, hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, and I will see you on the next one.